Many thanks to all of you for tuning in. And thanks to Carol Peters and Shane Nielsen for putting this book together. It's very beautiful, I gotta say. And they actually included a number of examples of my prints. So that was a bonus. And thank you to Planet Earth Poetry, Daniel, Leanne, and Zoe. Much, much appreciated, really. So this book, How Light Edges, is a book of, I guess it's ekphrastic poems, but I tend to think of ekphrastic as being more about a specific piece of art. And these 18 poems are as much about the artist as they are about the art, and a mixture of the two of them. So that's what it is. And I'm going to start by reading the epigraph, which says more about art than I ever probably could. Art is food. You can't eat it, but it feeds you. Art has to be cheap and available to everybody. It needs to be everywhere because it is the inside of the world. Art soothes pain. Art wakes up sleepers. Art fights against war and stupidity. Art sings hallelujah. And that's by Peter Schumann of the Bread and Puppet Theater. I've never managed to see one of their performances, but they're supposed to be absolutely phenomenal, and they're in Vermont. And maybe one day I'll get there. Anyway, I'm going to start with a poem about Adrian Court, and I only discovered him. There was a photograph of his work in some magazine I was looking at. He's a 17th century Dutch poet. Adrian Court. Still life was low work. No mythic heroes, no punctured saints. Only these 5 peaches lit from within. 3 ruddy medlars, each with its strange horned ass. The red and white translucence of a few currants. 2 warty walnuts disguised as seeded toads. A bundle of asparagus, 1 spiky artichoke behind. What he bought at the market that morning. What he would eat that night. Always on the same marble slab, the same crack at its edge, always against a dark background, often a pale butterfly hovering above, bringing us into his world. This stone table, the light from his window, nothing else. The light is everything, how it gilds the table's edge, blushes the fruit, illuminates the hazelnuts in their ruffled husks, caresses the wild strawberries in their earthenware bowl. The next poem is about Frida Kahlo, who doesn't need much of an introduction. This came after visiting her house in Mexico City, which is amazing. Frida painted. Her house red, blue, and green. Her chairs and tables yellow. Painted portraits of herself. Monkey on her shoulder. Hummingbird at her throat. In a red shawl. In a velvet dress. In a white Indian costume, holding the hand of her other self. In an orange and blue huipil. With Diego and a medallion on her forehead, with baby Diego, child Jesus Diego, on her lap. In a dream where she sleeps below her own death as a wounded deer. In the last year of her life, racked with pain, she painted the words, Viva la vida. You can taste the juice. Oh, under a still life of red watermelon wedges. You can taste the juice in your mouth. Painted her body cast, bouquets of lilies blooming from her chest. I meant to say that the way the way these poems happen is these are artists, being an artist myself, primarily a printmaker now, but I've been various things. These are artists who somehow have stopped me in my tracks, and that's what happened then. Next poem is about Jim Dine, who is an American painter and printer, and he was known primarily for his paintings of bathrobes and tools and hearts, not so much for his botanical paintings. And I was in an art class and was shown many slides of his botanicals, which were so incredible. But I don't remember where I learned about his grandmother, or if I made it all up. I don't think I made it all up. Jim Dine and his grandmother, bathrobes and hammers aside. He always remembered her thumbs, how she'd take a tomato from the icebox, it between her fingers, a slight red trickle into fine soil. Months later, she'd put out a stoneware plate, lie seedy round beside cucumber moons on the lettuce divan she'd grown them. His grandmother's checked apron, big pocket for her pruning shears, digging fork. Grew what she loved, layered studies, the tipped wrist of a broadleaf fern, how light edges a stem, the cheek of a lily petal, shadow smudging its underside. His grandmother thinning fruit, squashing aphids, always his grandmother, her awkward hands, plant sewn in thick watercolor paper. Petals, leaves, stems, his tribute, her ridged blue veins, crooked second finger, bitten nails. And the next one is about Van Gogh. And this came about because I was in New York visiting my family, where I grew up in New York. And there was a big Van Gogh show of just drawings in a sepia colored ink. And it was so crowded, I kind of, being very small, I weaseled my way right in so I could have my face right up against these drawings. And this is about the art and the scene at the Met. Vincent. The Met mobbed with viewers lined up for Vincent's drawings. Pens he cut from marsh reeds, oak gall ink like dried blood, or rusted coffee stains, landscapes, tonal telegraphs, lines, dots, swirls. Don't lean on the walls, folks. Scratched onto paper. An immediacy as if his eyes held the pen. No detours along neurons across synapses at fingertips. A cell phone rings, the theme from Swan Lake. No cell phones in the exhibit, folks. Creating the world from nothing. The mud on his boots, his fingernail dirt, the turds of the mice that played in his walls. Woman to friend, didn't know he could draw. The blazing curl of life, a knife that opened him too wide.
These are lovely.
Thank you. I wish I could show you. I was trying to figure out how to hold up some of the art so you could see it, but I couldn't quite figure out how to do that, so that didn't happen. Okay, this one is about Ai Weiwei, who maybe, I hope you know about, who is a contemporary, brilliant Chinese. He's a sculptor, a assemblagist, and a hugely important activist. He lets you know what he thinks about things. Ai Weiwei, deviant and plagiarist. And deviant and plagiarist is what the Chinese media call him. Weiwei makes 100 million sunflower seeds of porcelain. 100 million. It takes a village, Jingdezhen, of porcelain artists forming the seeds by hand, firing them, painting the black stripes one by one. 10 tons of seeds. What could be simpler than a sunflower seed? Pop it in your mouth, crack the hull between your teeth. Everyday street food. Mao named himself the sun. Imagine the Chinese people as sunflowers stretching to his radiance. The Tate Modern buys 8 million porcelain seeds, fills a gallery. Visitors crunch them under their feet, sift them through their fingers, sifting the Chinese people. When I was an infant, his father, a renowned poet, was denounced, sent to hard labor. Now I, a solitary wisteria shoot, cracks through pavement to challenge the sun. Oh, did I forget to read one? Just a second. Oh, I think. Okay. Oh, no, that's not right. Okay, this is Richard Chichamara, who you may or may not know. He was born in Vienna, but he moved to Victoria in his 20s. And I think he was one of the best artists that Victoria, that British Columbia, that Canada has ever had. So I should spell his name, but anyway, Google him. It's absolutely, he's incredible. Richard Chichamara. Paintings. Two men stare at opposite walls. One face twists away. Downward tilt of shoulder, cant of neck. Bodies turned, each into his own bare island, or recumbent with despair. His collage, figures cut from translucent tissue, glued to dark wood, half here, half slipped away, rising upward, anguish redeemed. His watercolors, finger exercises, he called them, nature studies, fern fronds drawn with such delicacy, they reach from the paper to stroke your wrist. The fallen maple leaf, like a weathered mahogany hand, tendons curled to shelter hurt. Richard Chichamara, his loneliness tender as the fontanelle on a newborn skull. The wild that ran through his veins, so tuned, trout swam to his hook. This is the last one I'm going to read. And this is about Betty Goodwin, another Canadian, unbelievable artist, printmaker. She did an awful lot of things. And if you don't know her work, you'll get to see it. How she abides, Betty Goodwin. Always the body, the homeless, the falling, the fallen. The body half disappeared, smudged, obscured, almost merged with fecund brown earth. The body like a leaf on autumn's wind, like a carcass hung upside down in the butchered cold storage, or on its side, feet bare, head skewed, a row of round rocks on a polished steel shelf below. The blur, the half-charted passage, dry-eyed weeping to another somewhere. The empty room, empty bed, resting above a coursing river, islanded from its flow. The body and the empty vests which once held it, in memory of her father, a tailor, too soon gone. Hands, needles, thread, pattern pieces, overlaid, vests buried. The body swimming, swimmers floating near the surface, or plunged, who like her father, smoothing woolen worsted, smooth what throbs, what can't be held, holds us. Who lives in charcoal, pastel, and graphite, turns scarred and dirty old tarps into witness, unbearable tenderness, who like a reverse Midas stretches her hand to raw holiness, how she abides with us in our bodies, in the grief that comes wordless, whose art is Kaddish, all the rough-hewn beauty, swift passing presence. Thank you.